Hello there and welcome to Luminar NEO Academy, the show where we teach you how to get the most out of this photo editing application. Now, if you've never been here before, my name is Jakub and I'm a creator and founder here at Clever Photographer. Now, before we're going to start, I have a few things I want to cover. First of all, at the end of the video, we're going to give you access to our popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet. So if you want to get that, make sure you stay until the end. Also, if you want to follow me along and do the edit on your own computer, make sure that you jump into the description, click on the link there and download the sample files. Also, if you do not own Luminar NEO, make sure you use the link in the description together with the discount code so you can get the best deal on your new purchase. And finally, we would like to ask you to please like, comment and share on this video. And also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create wet glass effect in Luminar NEO. To create this effect, we're going to need the help of Layers panel, and we're going to be using some great overlays as well as few special tools located on your main toolbar. This effect can create beautiful results and we're going to have lots of fun making it. So without any further ado, let's jump into Luminar NEO and let's start. So as you can see, once again, we are in Luminar NEO and we are in a catalog module. We are looking at the sample files, and here comes a reminder about downloading our sample files. If you want to follow me along and do the edit on your own computer, head into the video description, click on the link there and download the files so you can start the edit with me. So once again, we're gonna select this picture of the young lady, so click on it, and then click on the edit on the top of your screen to bring it into the edit module. Before we're going to start, I want to mention that this method is going to work the best on the images with a darker background. This is why this image will work very well for us. We have this well-lit young lady with a dark background and dark clothes. The first step we're going to do is bring our assets into our Layers panel. So let's bring our attention towards the Layers panel, where we're going to click on a little plus sign button. Inside of the Layers panel, click on a Load Image, and then navigate to the location of your sample files. Inside, we have the original image we're working on and 3 other layers, so import them all. Now from this view, you can only do it one by one, so let's just start with the wet glass overlay and click on Open. Now again, click on Load Image, select the layer 50% gray, click on Open, click on Load Image again and click on Scratch Texture and click on Open. The first layer we're going to add is the wet glass overlay. So just click on it in My Images and it will be added to your layers. Now you can see we have the original image with the wet glass overlay on the top of it. Once it appears on your image, you can see it gets this blue frame with the 4 white dots around it. We will work with that in a moment, but first let's jump into our layer properties. The layer properties follow and edit and adjust the layer you have selected in your Layers panel. So let's come back to them, and first thing first, let's increase the opacity to 100. But now by doing that, you can see that we completely remove the subject and the image below. So we need to change the blend mode. So let's click on the blend mode drop-down box and change the blend mode to screen. So by doing that, some of the darker parts of the image actually disappear and we're starting to see our subject back. So it's looking great. It's starting to look like she's behind the glass, which is brilliant. Now with the opacity, I would bring it down a little bit to somewhere around 90. And now we can adjust and transform the position of the wet glass overlay. So when I hover over the overlay, you see that our mouse, it changes to the hand. Then when I click, I can move it around. After that, when we hover over the corners, I can adjust the size of the overlay while keeping the same ratio. I can also hover over the sides of the overlay and then adjust the width or the height of the overlay. So it's up to me. And finally, when I go outside of the overlay, you can see that we get these little arrows, and that way we can actually rotate the overlay around. So let's increase the size. And we actually want to position the darker part of the overlay over her face so we can see more of it. Also, when I'm looking at the bottom of our screen and on the overlay, we can see part of the window and I don't really want to see it. So let's make it even bigger. And actually what I would like to do is to flip it. I would like this part of the building be over her and behind her. So we go back to our layer properties and just click on the flip horizontal. So that flip our overlay, and now we can position it over here nicely. Maybe make it even a little bit bigger. So I think something like this. And that way we have the street and road just in front of her, which I think is looking really good. Now we need to make it a little bit smaller. So something like this. And we're starting to look good. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can see a little bit more. And I think something like this is looking really, really good. So this is the first step. Once we're happy with the position, we just hit enter, and that's our new wet glass overlay over it. Now, when we look at the wet glass overlay and the subject, you can see that first of all, they don't match when it comes to brightness, and also the colors don't match. So now we need to match both of them. Now, if you haven't seen my color matching tutorial and you want to learn more about how to do this, you should definitely check it out, and I will place the link to it in the top right corner of the video. So what we need to do, we need to click on a plus sign in our layers and select the 50% gray layer. After that, it will be added into our layers, and we want it on the top of both of our layers, so that's fine. Now let's use our white dots and make sure that it covers the entire image. The next thing we want to do is to go into our layer properties and increase the opacity to 100. Now, of course, you guessed it, we need to change the blend mode. So first we're going to adjust the exposure between the original layer and the wet glass overlay. So for this, we need to change the blend mode to color. By doing that, the image turns black and white or a monochrome, and we can see the difference between our original image and the new layer. So the original image, the lady, is a little bit too bright, so we just need to adjust it. So for this, you need to select the lady on your layers, and then move into your main toolbar, open a develop tool, and really all you need to do is to adjust the exposure. So just make it all a little bit darker. So I think somewhere around here is looking good and more realistic. Now we can come back to our layers and we can right click on our gray layer and click on hide layer. So that way we can see what we applied without the gray overlay on the top of it. Let's have a look at the before when it was really bright and after when it's looking a little bit more realistic. So this is how you color match exposure. Now how do we color match the colors? So for this we need to unhide our layer. So right click on it and click on show layer, and now select it and go back to layer properties. In the layer properties, change the blend mode into the luminosity. By doing that, you can see that it's looking really strange. The picture looks very, very strange. However, we can see some colors behind. We can see that this is very much orange and everything else is blue and green. So we want the orange to become as close as possible towards the colors you can see on the rest of the image. So again, select the image with the lady, then navigate into the develop tool, open it, close the light and open the curves. Here we're gonna use the red, green and blue curves. I don't want to go deep into what each one of the curves do. All I want you to do is to create 1 and 2 dots. First, hold the one on the top, which will be adjusting the highlights, and drag it up and see what it adds to the picture. When I do it a lot, you can see it's becoming orange. So that's not matching it with the rest of the image. It's making it more orange. So obviously we need to go the other way around. We need to go down. And when we go down, you can see how it's almost disappearing. So that's what we're looking for. Then equal it with the shadows. That's the point on the bottom. Let's bring it up, which makes everything more orange. Or we can bring it a little bit down and again blend it with the rest of the image. Now we're going to move to the green. Here again create 1 point, second point, and again the first point with the highlights. Bring it up. See, it's make it too green. And bring it down, and that makes it too purple, too magenta. So you want to find the good spot, which I think is something like this. Then with the shadows, which is the second point, bring it down and see what it does. Too magenta, bring it up, too green. So we just need to find where we like it. So something like this is looking good. And finally, with our blue curve, again, 1 point, 2 points, just drag the highlight point up, see what it does, too blue, down, too yellow. So just find whatever you like. I don't think we need to do much here. And with the highlights, same thing, up, too blue, down, too yellow, and you just need to find the sweet spot. So I think something like this is looking really good. Now, again, we can come back into our layers, right-click on the gray layer and click on hide layer. So that way we hide it. And you can see how better is now the subject looking. How much more realistic is it looking towards the background. Let's jump into our develop tool here again. Click on the little eye icon and see the before and after. And it's matching so much better together. So now we are done with the color matching. We have color matched the exposure with the subject and the rest of the image. And we have also matched the colors of the subject and the rest of the image. And all of this was done by using the 50% gray layer. Again, if you've never done it before, make sure that you check out our color matching video. Now, since we're done with the color matching, we can right click on our gray layer and click on remove layer. Now let's focus on our wet glass overlay. Let's select it. And in overall, when I'm looking at it, I would like it a little bit darker. So for this, while we have it selected, let's jump into the develop tool. And really what we need to do is to close the curve and jump into the light and just bring the exposure down a little bit. Not only that you're making the overlay a little bit darker, but you're also letting the subject stand out a little bit more. Now looking at it now, have you noticed how this drop is coming from her eye? I think it's looking really, really cool. Now we can still adjust its position, and we can do that by closing the develop tool and applying the effect to the image. And now opening the layer properties, and as I mentioned earlier, the layer properties adjusting and editing the layer that is selected in our layers panel. So as we have the layer properties open, now we can adjust the position of the layer, and we can nicely move it and position it over her eye. So I think that's looking really, really cool. Now the next step would be to make it a little bit more realistic. And for this, we're gonna use the help of another overlay, and this time we're gonna use some scratches. So let's click on a plus sign, and we're gonna use this little white overlay here. So let's just click on that. Again, very quickly, it will be brought to our layers, and as you can see, it's still on the top of our layers. So we have our original subject, we have the wet glass overlay, and now we have the scratches. Now let's adjust the size, and again, position it and transform it with the use of the blue frame and the use of the rotation. So what do we like? I don't want too much of the scratches over here. I prefer to have them over the road. So I think something like this. So once we're happy with the position, we go back to our layer properties, increase the opacity, and then click on the blend mode again. In the blend mode, we're gonna change it from normal to multiply. Now I really like the effect, however, it's a little bit too strong. So first, let's try to adjust the opacity. When we make it much less visible, it's looking good, but I don't want it everywhere. So let's just adjust the position. Let's adjust the opacity as well. I think somewhere around 30 is probably enough. And now we're gonna use some masking. So let's click on masking and let's use brush here. Now the overlay is everywhere. We just wanna remove it from some parts of the image. So for this, we're gonna use the erase, adjust the size, and with the strength, let's start somewhere around 50. I think the softness is good. We just need a little bigger brush maybe. And now let's just brush over her face and maybe over the body, just a little bit. Also bring the strength down to somewhere around 30 and very gently paint over the brighter areas here. So it's not that visible. So I think something like this is looking good. So we have added a little bit of texture and a little bit of depth just to make it a little bit more realistic. So I think that for now we are finished with the layers panel. We have brought over the wet glass overlay to create the effect. Then we have done the color matching and we have added some depth with the scratch overlay. So the next step would be to export it in a TIFF format so we can keep as much quality as possible and then bring it back so we can apply some global effect to the entire image. So how are we gonna do this? Close the layer properties, right click on the image and click on export. After the export appear, we wanna adjust the export setting. Again, if you wanna learn more about exporting in Luminar NEO, I suggest you to watch the export tutorial which is available on our YouTube channel. So very quickly, let's have a look at the settings here. Sharpening, we're gonna leave it on none. Resize, we're gonna change it and choose the original. We don't wanna adjust the size. Then in the color space, leave it on sRGB. The format we're looking for is a TIFF. Compression, I would actually click on none. And in the depth, definitely go for the 16 bits. Again, we want to keep as much quality as possible. In resolution, I suggest you to choose 300 and then uncheck the save transparency. We don't want any of that. Once we finish, make sure that you choose the correct location and simply click on save. It's gonna take a few seconds, it's gonna export, and then I'll meet you in a catalog module. So the export is over, and as I promised, we are back in a catalog module. We have our image here with all the layers melted and merged together. So we just select it by clicking on it and again move it into the edit module. So as you can see, all the layers were merged and we just have a one layer in our layers panel. So since it's selected, let's go into our essential tools and let's start with Vignette. Click on the name, open it, and start by choose subject. So click on the button, and now you can see that your mouse turned from the arrow into the cross. By positioning the cross wherever you want, so for example on the face of the subject, you will then choose the center of the vignette. So let's just click in the middle of the face, and now come back to the Vignette tool and bring the amount down as far as you like. Now I really like to go quite far, and you can see how it's starting to come from this part of the image. Now, while you have the choose subject on, you can still adjust its position. So I think something like this is looking a little bit better. And let's have a look on the amount. Something like this is looking good. Now we can click on a choose subject again. So our mouse is back to original magnifying glass, and we can come back to our Vignette tool. Here we can adjust the size of the vignette and see what we like. So I think something like this maybe, somewhere around 30. And also we can open the advanced setting by clicking on its name. And here we have some other options. We can adjust the feather to see what we like. I think quite high is looking good. We can also adjust the roundness if we want. But I think somewhere around -35 is looking good. Inner light, if you would slide it up, you would make the center of the vignette brighter. But I think we are good for the moment. So that's about it with the Vignette tool. We have added some nice vignette. Again, we can click on the little eye icon to see the before and after. Once we finish with the tool, we click on it, apply it to the image, and now we can move to another tool. So the next thing we're gonna use is the Atmosphere AI. Again, click on its name to open it, and start by choosing the mode by clicking on the gray drop-down box. For this image, I actually like the choice of the fog, so let's just select it and move to the sliders. Let's start by bringing the amount up. And as you can see, the fog is actually appearing from here. But that's a good thing because it's looking like the glass is a little bit steamed. So that's really, really cool. Let's have a look at it. We don't want it too strong, but I think something like this is looking good. After that, we can move to the slider called depth. By doing that, you can see that we either make the fog coming only from the bright areas, or we can increase the depth and make it come from some other areas. It's going to cover the darker parts as well. So that is really, really cool. So let's create something like this. Now we can also adjust the lightness of the fog by bringing the lightness slider down. Let's see what we like. I think maybe somewhere around here, just to make it a little bit more gray, not as pure white. Again, let's have a look at the before and after, and it really adds a little bit more depth to the overall feel of the image. So again, to apply it, let's just close it. And to finish it off, we're gonna use the Mood tool. So let's open it by clicking on it. Let's make it nice and visible, and let's start by choosing the LUT. And to make it easier, we're gonna use one of the LUTs that come with the application. So for this effect, let's choose the Los Angeles, which makes it a little bit blue and nice and cinematic. Now we can use the amount slider to adjust the effect and see what we like the best. But I think something like this is looking really, really cool. Now we can adjust the contrast, make it a little brighter or more contrasty, which I think is really nice. I think a little bit of extra contrast looks good. And then with the saturation, we can bring it down and make it really desaturated, or we can push it and make it really saturated. But I think that somewhere around -10-15 is looking good. So that's about it. Again, once we finish with the tool, we close it, apply it to the image. And if we want to come back later and make some adjustments to it, we can just click on the Edit tab, and that's where all the tools we used are. Again, we can come back to our tools, and then we can come towards the bottom of our screen where there is another eye icon, and that will show us before and after all the adjustments we made. So there you have it. It was really simple, and once you know what you're doing, it's a question of 10-15 minutes. First, you bring your subject in. Then you bring over the wet glass overlay. You adjust the blend modes, you transform it, position it, and have it ready. Then you color match the subject as well as the new wet glass overlay. It's always good to add a little bit of depth with something like a scratch overlays or a similar effect. Once you're happy with what you've done with your layers, it's time to export it and merge everything together. Export it in the highest quality possible, and for this I suggest you the TIFF format with no compression. Bring it back into Luminar NEO and apply any of the global effects to sell the effect and create something really special.
And now it's time to get your gift. If you want to get access to our Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet, all you need to do is to head to our website cleverphotographer.com/luminargift. And there you can download the cheat sheet and start to use it right away. And there you have it. So I hope you had fun and I hope you learned something new. If you did, please make sure that you like, comment and share our video. And also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. For today, thank you very much for watching. My name was Jakub and I can't wait to see you in the next video.